What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Back at it again. This is at the request of Dr. Johnson. He wanted me to address Dr. Christina Parks' claims about the COVID vaccines and, excuse me, their issues in her opinion. This goes under my snake oil section. Hope you guys enjoy it. And want to shout out to all my supporters and the guys who have given me donations in order to continue to put out material. I appreciate all of my supporters. I appreciate everybody who has made comments, made requests, and just the general dialogue that we have in my comment section. I appreciate it. And it's interesting, whether you agree with me or not. Again, shout out to Dr. Johnson. I'm going to put this out for him. You guys go check out his page. I will post links to all of the pages that I think you guys should go ahead and go check out and support. I am going to, excuse me, read a passage. Well, not a passage. It's an article from one of Dr. Parks' peers, who addresses some of her claims about the COVID vaccinations and the science behind it. We'll look into a little bit of her background and why she kind of believes the way she believes. I'm sure you guys won't be shocked, won't be surprised at all. She is one of a long procession of anti-vaxxers and people who say they are people of science, yet they don't believe in science. She is out here, putting out more misinformation. It's just loads of it, propaganda and misinformation, and to what end? Unfortunately, in the pursuit of her PhD, she did not take any ethics classes to complement the rest of her classes to get her doctorate, which is unfortunate. We're going to go over that. I'm going to go ahead and read that, that article to you guys about what her peers are saying about her and her claims. It amazes me that this person even was allowed to address a state house in her, in her state as a credible person. But that's what we're seeing nowadays. Where we're seeing people who are not credible and who have no factual basis for their claims, but they're still being given a platform to profess, what they claim to be their expertise on, matters of grave importance. So we'll look into that and trying to get this stuff out as fast as I can, but I want to, cover the things and, kind of read these things, gather the information, and then put it out to you guys so that you can, decide for yourselves whether this is something that should be taken into consideration or something that's not. Here we go. All righty. So here's the article by Reginald Finley Sr. He's a PhD, and this is from Health and Science Facts. Okay, there are a lot of good sections to this page here. You can look at pseudoscience, pseudo health, medicine misuse, practitioner watches, a lot of things. You guys should, go check them out. And like I said, I'll post this link. You guys can explore it yourself. Maybe you'll find something on there that's interesting that you can, pass around and, maybe broaden your perspective on things. So here we go. Dr. Christina Parks' viral rant on the Tdap and COVID-19 vaccines. When someone feels the need to remind you of their PhD credentials over and over again, this should give you caution or cautious pause. The evidence is what matters. Dr. Christina Parks, a popular icon in the vaccine hesitancy movement, appeared to testify with regard to the bill HB 4471 in Michigan, which would outlaw employers from requiring the flu, the Tdap, and the COVID-19 vaccines in the workplace. Dr. Parks took her time at the mic to spread a copious amount of legerdemain, half-truths, mistruths, egregious misunderstandings, and straight-up conspiracy nonsense. Sadly, her rant is now being shared across social media, possibly increasing the vaccine hesitancy among the Black community, where it is already quite low. I respect Dr. Parks as being a Black female PhD in the sciences. We need so many more. I do not respect her abuse of authority via credentials and the spread of misinformation, whether intentional or not. If you are at this page, you have probably already seen the video, but here it is again for those of you who may have not. Okay, this was on 9/18/21. Okay, we're going to address the claims one by one. Okay, addressing the claims. I have addressed her many claims that are false and or assumptive, and the good stuff that I have time to address below. Number one, the media is simplifying the complex technology to take away our freedoms. Science communicators always simplify the science because the general public doesn't usually understand. The information is not clandestine or secret, though it is readily available to the public to attempt to consume. Okay. The reason why, and this is me, y'all. So the reason why these things are simplified for public consumption is because you have to put these things in layman's terms, because you have to assume that the people, you can't assume that the people that you are trying to communicate with have the same level of education as you. So you have to package it and present it in a form that is easy for them to consume and to disseminate mentally. Okay. So that is a common practice. I mean, you're taught to do that in school with your nurse, a doctor, a PhD, whatever, and again, what he said initially about when a person throws PhD, doctor, whatever in your face constantly, they shouldn't have to do that. You should present your information and present how you came to the conclusion that this information is factual. And the only way to do that, is by recreating the outcome that you came to over and over and over, multiple times. But not only you have to give your information to other people, and they have to go through your steps and come through to the same conclusion. That's the way it happens. I mean, it's kind of hard to lie that way. Kind of hard to fabricate information that way. So that's why people in the medical field or people in the scientific community conduct themselves or present information in that way. Excuse me. Okay. Number two, she argues that all public health policies surrounding vaccines and masks are due to the false idea that they prevent disease. This is not quite accurate. The percentage of the population that is needed to be vaccinated to prevent spread has been hammered over and over again. We just haven't met this mark. Mutations, poor human decisions, and lack of science and public health understanding don't help. Again, that's why we put it in a presentable package that makes it easy to understand so that a decision can be made. And I'll be going into another video as to why this is important and the things that we're trying to prevent from happening, by making it harder for people to be able to make decisions. Okay, so if we were using proper masks, physical distancing, and if more people were vaccinated, we could actually prevent spread, as there wouldn't be enough hosts to transmit to sufficiently. Even if that's not feasible, we could at least prevent most deaths due to infection through vaccines. Can't say it any easier than that. Okay, number 3. The virus doesn't infect the blood, only the mucosa. Okay. I think this is part of the Dr. Sebi crowd, which I'm not trying to disparage Dr. Sebi, but a lot of people are on the mucus thing that have never read his work or don't even understand how the body even does any of that, So let's cover this a little bit. So it says, okay, the virus doesn't infect the blood, only the mucosa. Confused? You should be. First, what is mucosa? This is the upper cellular lining of the tissue. These are the cells that line the mouth, salivary glands, nasal tissue, lung tissue, and the intestinal tissue. Now, we have all heard and read the stories about the COVID virus impacting heart tissue directly, so they must have traveled there somehow, right? Indeed, via the blood. So she's not saying that the virus doesn't enter the bloodstream, as some have argued after watching the video. What is true is that SARS-CoV-2 doesn't appear to set up shop in the blood or require it for infection to cause death. Measles, however, does. In other words, measles uses blood components, immune cells, to be more infectious. SARS-CoV-2 doesn't mostly. Okay, with that out of the way, what Dr. Parks is getting at here is that the current COVID vaccines are not sterilizing because of this fact. That is, the immune response to SARS-CoV-2 doesn't completely prohibit infection or transmission. Here's the problem, though. The vaccines don't need to be 100% sterilizing, and most vaccines aren't. Measles vaccines produce sterilizing immunity because the virus' primary mode of infection, but also because it mutates very slowly. It is true that SARS impacts chiefly the mucosa, but this doesn't mean that the vaccines aren't effective. They are. Okay. And there are 7 links here that prove the effectiveness of the vaccines and disprove her claims about the mucosa. And, like I said, these claims will be debunked and links will be provided. Okay, number 4. Excuse me. You don't produce any IgA to neutralize COVID in the mucosa. Dr. Park may have misspoken here. This study appears to show that it does. There's a link. Okay. I don't think she misspoke. I think she just didn't know what she was talking about. Okay. 5. More vaccinated people end up in the hospital in Massachusetts. Okay. She brings up Massachusetts event to bolster her point, failing to mention that 90% of the cases were the Delta variant, not wild type. She also fails to consider that if 75% of the base staters are vaccinated, then you'd actually expect to have more vaccinated than unvaccinated in the hospital after the event. You must consider the ratio of unvaxxed versus vaxxed to their respective populations. In other words, how many vaccinated people at the event compared to the city's total vaccinated population are hospitalized. You also do the same for the unvaccinated percentage-wise. The unvaccinated always suffer more severe illness and death in every single instance, as documented by hospital data. The unvaccinated are the most ill and dying at a much higher rate or frequencies than the vaccinated. 2. So epidemiologists don't look at just the cases as Dr. Parks did here. And then they have 2 links to further explain that. Excuse me, y'all. 6. Acellular pertussis vaccine does not prevent pertussis infection. I agree with her mostly. It is true that the acellular pertussis vaccine doesn't fully prevent transmission. Most vaccines don't, but it does provide between 64 and 85% protection against pertussis within the first year, but wanes significantly after that. So I do agree that a new vaccine is needed to establish a long-term efficacy. I also agree that public health information should be more transparent and comprehensible to the general public. This doesn't mean that children shouldn't be vaccinated, though, just because it's not 100% yet. Neither are wearing seatbelts. I'm glad she agreed that the vaccine does prevent severe illness. In fact, lower rates of illness generally tend to lead to less transmissibility among a population. If the virus has a harder time taking hold, there is less chance of spread. 2 links there. Excuse me. God. Excuse me, y'all. Okay. 7. Flu vaccines in multiple years cause worse outcomes. This is based on some studies I've read before, but they are contradictory. Unfortunately, this is not settled as much as she'd like to believe. There are the links to further expound upon that. Okay. Number 8, referred to paper this week that reported that our immune system is helping Delta infect the cells. Not quite. She is probably talking about antibody-dependent enhancement. Okay. ADE is indeed a process by which macrophages, a type of white blood cell, may inadvertently give a virus access to itself. In feline enteric coronavirus, as well as in MERS, researchers noticed that improper neutralization may cause macrophages to not destroy the virus, as they can instead become infected themselves. This has been a concern with SARS-CoV-2. Evidence to date, however, has not shown definitively that this is occurring in COVID patients. Petri dish studies have shown that SARS-CoV-2 can infect macrophages. Recovered lung tissue in COVID pneumonia patients have revealed the presence of SARS-CoV-2 in the cells. However, it is not known if this was due to infection or normal cleanup processes. Says, I want to be clear here. The vaccines are not causing the cells to become infected, as some viewers have interpreted her remarks. ADE can and does occur in naturally recovered individuals with antibodies to some viruses. The preprint she is probably referring discusses that Delta is not being efficiently neutralized. This is true. Neutralization could be far better. Luckily, even though there isn't 100% protection, vaccines like Comirnaty are doing a good job at mitigating severe disease. If ADE is occurring, you'd expect much more severe cases as ADE causes a stronger immune reaction, such as producing excess cytokines, which can exacerbate the illness. This doesn't appear to be happening, however. I will concede that better treatments could be masking this effect. The paper asserts that Delta is 4 mutations away from complete escape. At that point, it will be like a new virus, as Dr. Parks mentioned. It appears that Dr. Parks took this information about escape and attached it to the ADE phenomenon. Escape is a huge concern, and newer vaccines are needed to be developed to control this. This doesn't mean, however, that we shouldn't mandate masks or vaccines. The CDC has been clear that the vaccinated people need to mask up too. All in all, there is no concrete evidence that the antibodies generated for the wild-type SARS-CoV-2 virus are taking the virus Delta strain and helping it infect cells. Even if we were 65%, where 65% neutralization is better than none. Okay, we've got 8 links there. Note, if a research article has shown that ADE is occurring, I will update the record to show this. Science is about building upon prior knowledge. That is important. Always remember that whenever you're reading any of this stuff, that, I've heard, I was on another panel where everybody was like, the story keeps changing, and they almost relate, scientific papers to gossip. The story keeps changing. What can we trust? And you can't look at it that way. I mean, it's nonsensical for people to even say things like this where they have large audiences listening, because it basically muddies the waters and it confuses people. And it causes a form of paralysis where people just can't make a decision because there's so much information out there. There's so much misinformation. And then there's good information. And then it's mixed all together. And then you don't know what's true. And then you just can't make a decision. That's just not a good situation. Okay, we'll move on to 9 here. Okay. PhDs are the most unvaccinated group. She mentioned that PhDs are the most unvaccinated. So what? A PhD in management, curriculum, accounting, marketing, basket weaving doesn't grant one immediate scientific and health knowledge. How many MDs and PhDs in health and medicine are vaccinated? Almost all of them. Now, I had this come up in that same panel that I was in. Look at how many nurses and look at how many doctors are not taking it. And we're seeing stories where nurses are refusing to take the vaccine based off of fictitious and faulty information. Okay? As a nurse, you are required to continue your educational process. Every day, you need to be trying to seek out new information in order for you to maintain your skills and maintain your knowledge base. Now, I can't tell you that all nurses do that. I think doctors are a little bit better than nurses about it. As you can tell, I mean, we got some that just feel like once they get out of school, they don't have to ever do anything again. And that's just, I don't know what to tell you. But eventually they weed themselves out. So that's a problem. But again, we have 2 links here that show, the information to prove, that a lot of us, are out here taking this vaccine. We were some of the first in line to take this vaccine so that, a lot of you guys didn't have to do it. So now that we've been the canary in the coal mine, people still don't want to take it. So, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, we'll move on to the Tuskegee experiment, which is important because this is yet another piece of information that people use, Black folks use, to try to say that they should never, ever trust the medical community and they should never, ever trust any medicine or any of that. And, we're seeing that in the Hotep community and conscious community and all of that, and it's a lot of this information is just, over the top. And it's unfortunate because, look, medicine, the first instances of medicine were found in Egypt. And that's where all of them, want to have you basically exalt that into, the highest, authority about anything and everything. It's the best of Blackness. But yet you don't trust the medicine that came from there. The medical practices that came from there. So let's talk about that. Dr. Parks mentioned the Tuskegee experiment, insinuating that we are still being experimented upon. This is an important historical note, but a non sequitur. Okay. Hopefully I didn't murder that. Don't use it all the time. Okay, so there's a link to that. Okay, random fact. The investigators did not give the participants syphilis. I've said this 100 times. I even did a show on it. Okay, this is a popular myth. I've fought with people in person about this, even family members. They did watch the disease progress in the Black patients that thought they were receiving treatment. Yes, I know it is still absolutely horrific. And there's the CDC timeline of what actually happened. You can also go and read the paper, the things that they, had to publish in order for them to get the reputability that they were seeking for trying to make progress in syphilis, infections and understanding the disease itself. Okay, now as I go into that, if you want to go into more of that, it'll show you exactly what happened. There's a presentation on YouTube with a guy who studied it inside and out. And, you can thank reporters for going and looking for the results of that study in plain sight, where everybody publishes their papers. That's how it came out. It wasn't that they were hiding it. The people that were involved just were poorly educated. And they took advantage of them. And these people have been put on blast, and judged, by their peers. And, as appropriately as it could have been done, not to, brush that under the water. It happened. Okay. But it has nothing to do with what's going on right now. So that, I think, is where people have a problem with connecting these dots. Or how people are trying to connect the dots between that, and this now. Totally different situation. Okay. So here she goes with the autism thing. And this has been around for a long time. Autism, Black children, and vaccines. The autism and vaccination claims were disheartening and the most disturbing. Dr. Parks' insinuation that vaccines are causing higher rates of autism in Black children is not supported by the evidence. And the evidence is down below. 1, 2, 3, 4. Citing Thompson's during her testimony was particularly damning. And Thompson's is there at number 5. It's just not true. Okay. And here's Dr. Kismika Corbett, a Black female scientist that actually worked on the messenger RNA Moderna vaccine. Dr. Kismika Corbett, perhaps we should celebrate competent scientists actually working in the field and not spread pseudoscience and pseudo-health claims. Let's make Dr. Corbett go viral instead. Okay, there you have it. It's the whole article there, and there at the end, you guys can use that for me too. Drop me a line, let me know what you think. My comment section is open. So there you have it. I don't really know what else to give you on that. But I guess I can say that Dr. Christina Parks is a fraud, and I think that things need to be done to try to address these issues that these people are bringing, coming out of the woodwork with these false claims and whatnot. I think there needs to be repercussions, and I think they are swiftly coming. Some of these people are gonna pay the price for essentially putting people's lives at risk with this misinformation. I would like to thank you guys for listening. It's been fun. I appreciate you guys, and guess I'll see you on the next one.